Last year, the AL Central was a division that everyone clowned on for being the worst in baseball. The jokes and jabs were definitely valid since 1 out of 5 teams in the Central went above 500, and obviously that means only one team made it to the playoffs. That team was the Minnesota Twins. As many said, they made it because one Central team has to go. If you took the AL Central crown that granted access into the playoffs away, the Twins would not have even made it as a wild card. The Twins finished the year 87-75. 3 teams in the AL East finished with a better record. 3 teams in the AL West also finished with a better record. The AL Central was just not good last year, especially when you put that into perspective. 4 teams in baseball finished with over 100 losses. Let's narrow it down a bit to the American League, where 3 of those 4 teams belong. One of those teams were the A's, with a 50 and 112 record. The other 2 teams were in the AL Central, and those teams were the Chicago White Sox and the Kansas City Royals. The White Sox went 61 and 101, but in my opinion, they only lost 100 games because they had a complete fire sale of mostly any player with value on the team. But in the end, 100 losses is in fact 100 losses. The Royals were just a bad roster with no pitching and a mid-offense, and they finished 56 and 106. The fact that half of the 100-loss teams came from that division speaks volumes in regard to just how bad it was. The Twins won it with 87 wins, and second-place Tigers had 78 wins, and the Guardians had 76. I will give credit where credit is due, because the Twins did end up winning a playoff series against the Toronto Blue Jays, but they also haven't been the best team, the Blue Jays. A lot of people coming into 2024 had low expectations again for the AL Central, and you really can't blame them. The thing is, the Central looks tremendously different. So far, there are 3 teams, the Guardians, Royals, and Twins, that are above 500 at the moment. The Tigers are 21 and 22, and the White Sox are 14 and 30. But ever since Tommy Pham came up, they have won 11 of their last 19 games, and after having one of the worst starts in baseball history. Every team except the White Sox has a positive run differential as well. If the season ended today, the Central would have 3 playoff teams. Cleveland would have the division, and the Royals and Twins would have the 2nd and 3rd wildcard spots. Now, we're only 40 games into the season so far, so obviously it's not final, but the turnaround of the AL Central has been quite impressive. One of the crazy parts about this turnaround in the division is about the payroll. Minnesota's payroll decreased from $165 million last year to $146 this year. Cleveland's went from $113 last year to $103. The White Sox went from $175 million to $148. Detroit's went from $131 to $110. The Royals' payroll is the only one that increased from last year, and they went from $109 million to $120 this year. You would think with 4 or 5 teams lowering the payroll on players that they will all sharply decline. But the thing is, that's just not been the case so far this season. The thing I like most about baseball is that regardless of how much you spend, there are so many factors beyond the financials that go into a team and the success that follows. Baseball is such a hot and cold streak sport in regards to winning, and that's also why the playoffs are so much fun to watch. Despite having 4 teams that lowered payroll, they damn near have 4 teams over 500 and have 3 teams in the playoffs. I will say, it is early and I really don't expect this to continue. The Twins have 2 superstars hurt right now in Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton, and once they're back, I could see them climbing into the division lead. The Guardians are also very solid and well-rounded, and I do expect to see them in the mix for the remainder of the season. The Royals, in my opinion, are a very fun team to watch, but at the same time, they're just not sustainable. They are spearheaded by a very hot pitching staff and a decent offense with some very good hitters like Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez. The Tigers are already starting to fade from their very hot start, and I see a lot of regression in them. While the White Sox are hot right now, it is only a matter of time until they unload some players at the deadline to get ready for next season. But in reality, they never really were going to fight for a playoff spot. Another factor to consider when talking about the AL Central's hot start is just how bad the White Sox have started and how all the Central teams took advantage of that. The White Sox have a 5-19 record against the AL Central. Before their recent matchup where they beat Cleveland in a 3-1 series, they had an abysmal 2-18 record against the AL Central. 4 of 5 wins in the Central are against Cleveland, and 1 was against the Royals. The Tigers are 3-0 versus the Sox, the Royals are 6-1, the Twins are 7-0, and the Guardians are 3-4. The White Sox have given plenty of these teams free wins so far, so the win totals do have some padding to them. Now, I'm not taking away from the team's success because the thing is, you're supposed to beat teams worse than you. I am just saying that almost every team in the division has cashed in on the White Sox' terrible start to the season. The thing is, the stats do not lie, because the Central went from the worst division in baseball to the time of this video, the best. As I said, I don't think it's sustainable. There are a lot of factors that go into this, but it's just kind of a fun thing to think about. How everything could just turn over like just one season like that. It's cool. I could see 2 teams in the Central at maximum making it to the playoffs. But the thing is, that's probably only because there's that 3rd wildcard spot added not too long ago. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Cleveland wins the division, but I think it will be tight between Cleveland and Minnesota's going to barely make the 3rd wildcard spot. As for the rest of the division, it's only a matter of time until we see a bunch of that regression. A lot of these teams are just playing out of their minds early on, such as the Royals. Their pitching staff, their pen, everyone has been unreal. But the thing is, that's just not sustainable based on what and who those players are. But the Royals are going to be a fun team, and they are going to pick it up and be better in the next coming years. So there's something to be excited about if you're a Royals fan. The Tigers, they got some fun players. Riley Green, he's nice. Spencer Torkelson's had a horrible start to the season, but they're a team that I do see picking it up. Not this year, maybe the next couple, but I think they're the most hopeless team in the AL Central. White Sox, despite being absolutely terrible, have made a bunch of trades, and they got a bunch of people in their farm. They got some money coming off the books with Eloy Jimenez, Yohan Moncada, so they will have some spending availability. They low-key have a loaded farm, despite what a lot of people think. They have a lot of guys that are slowly climbing up. In the recent report, they had 4 top 100 prospects. So the Sox, I think, are going to get their foot back in the door in this division in the next year or 2. Cleveland and Minnesota have some pretty good rosters, but the thing is they don't really spend money, so I'm not sure how long they're going to be able to last for. Cleveland just lost out on a TV deal, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with them. Minnesota, they got some superstars that are homegrown, but the problem is with Buxton and Lewis is they just unfortunately always get hurt. The AL Central is just an interesting division just because of how it works, how it operates. They're like the lowest spending division, it seems like. Not a lot of money spent in there. It's interesting. But go ahead and comment who you think will win the AL Central. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys later.